Welcome to the Filmistines, the double feature podcast. Join us as we unravel the interwoven experience and the continuous conversation of cinema. Take part in pairing movies with their cursed counterparts, movies that share DNA, or even pairing questionable duos by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/filmistines. We offer tiers at the $1, $5, and $20 level, where the $5 tier will grant the ability to request films to further the discussion. So grab some popcorn, sit back, and get ready to join the 100-year conversation. This is the Filmistines, where movies are more than just entertainment, they're an experience.
They're an experience.
All around you. And welcome back to another episode of the Filmistines. Thank you guys for joining us today. I am joined today by my savage friend, Lucy.
Hello, everyone.
You can join us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for brand new episodes of the Filmistines. Some recent episodes include The Green Knight, Civil War, 1917, our Patreon exclusive episode covering Amazon's new Fallout series, and Problemista. Remember to leave nice comments, thoughts, and ideas over on our Patreon as well. Go rate us on Apple Podcasts. Come write in. Come request a movie. Come subscribe for $1. We appreciate all the support. Thank you guys very much.
Are you stressed and filled with anxiety like I am? Maybe in a bit of pain from that car accident you had a few years ago? Well, the sponsor of today's episode, Hempville CBD, has us covered. They have the highest quality products created by chemists and doctors. Hempville carries everything from CBD to THC dispensary grade without those despicable dispensary prices. Order your Delta 8, 9 edibles and vapes along with the THCA flower and get free shipping when you spend $50 or more at hempvillecbd.com. Check out the link in the description for more details.
But today we are discussing Alejandro Iñárritu's 2015 film, The Revenant. I just wanted to start off by saying that I'm very conflicted about this movie. I feel like this movie really wants to be something more, but doesn't know how. And experientially, it's sort of confusing because it's quite the thing to watch and partake in, right? We're watching Leo go through these biblical-sized challenges to get his revenge. This movie has a level of perseverance and commitment that begs to be read into. There's almost this element of destiny and karma and even maybe a little bit of God operating through Glass, Mr. Glass here, Leo's character. But like how so many people have said before me, I'm getting inside a dead horse here. It ends by just being misery porn and torture porn for poor Leo here. What does anything mean in this movie? Why is Leo going through these spiritual kind of revelations in his dreams? Why do we get these religious echoes through some dialogue, through Fitzgerald, Tom Hardy's character, and the older Weasley brother?
That's where he's from.
Yeah, that's where he's from. You know, when Leo shows up at the camp, he's like, Jesus Christ. It's like so literal. And we see him in these like broken down cathedral, churchy type places in his dreams or whatever. And it's just like, why? And I really cannot put my finger on it. It feels like it's trying to be something more, but it doesn't know how to wrap its mind around a complete allegory. Maybe we can clear some things up, I hope. I want to like this movie more than I do. It's one of these movies, right? It's an attractive movie, right? When you see a trailer of this, I'm sure it's just like, wow. When you see the movie, visually, you're just like, wow. When you hear about the production of it, you're just like, what the heck? But it's all so meaningless. You know what I'm saying? I'm very curious how you feel about The Revenant. I'm not sure. Have you seen it before? Is this your first time?
I had seen this movie before, I think in 2015 when it came out. And I liked it then a lot. And part of me surprised that it's a 2015 movie. I don't know. I feel like it was made maybe in like 2019 or something, maybe 2020.
That's that COVID time dilation that we all felt. We lost those 3 years.
Gotcha. But I thought it was a pretty great film. I love the violence. You said torture porn. I guess I'm here for it here.
Of course. I am a big fan of what Leo experiences.
Yes, for sure. And with that, the, exaggerated survival nature that this film has, I absolutely love it. Not sure how I felt about the pacing. Part of me felt like it was a little bit too long, but then also part of me felt like that was part of the experience of the movie.
And you would think would add up to a bigger thing, right? A bigger message.
At least something, yeah, besides I got my vengeance.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll talk more about that in a bit. Like you said, this is a very beautiful movie, but I felt like there were a few questionable shots or maybe camera work choices that, I don't know, I'm dying to see how you feel about them. Great performances, of course. I think this was Leo's, first Oscar, right? After I don't know how many nominations.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you're right.
This was like the big conclusion to the Leo meme.
Yeah, Leo Oscar or we riot.
Yeah, exactly. But overall, I think I agree with you with the messaging. It was a bit pretentious almost. When I first saw this movie back before, I had my new brain of film experience, before I had my Shinigami eyes, I felt like this movie was just a survival movie, especially because his dead wife kept telling him to just keep breathing and just keep living, like a ultimate survival of the fittest type of movie. Maybe like those survival shows like Naked and Afraid or whatever, but just on crack. And that's it. That's all I thought this movie was about. Maybe, sprinkled in with a vengeance story. But most importantly, survive at all costs. But rewatching it again, I see that, of course, but I don't get that same feeling anymore. Now I'm getting a feeling of, you're trying to tell me something. Is there some kind of biblical story here that I'm supposed to be interpreting? I'm not too familiar with all the stories in the Bible, of course. But, a lot of the popular ones tend to jump out at you. And if it is referencing something like that, most of the time there's bigger clues that hint the overall messaging. But I wasn't sure about here because it's like playing with you whether you can see it or not. And is it even there? Or did it just get thrown in here to make you feel like you're getting something from it?
It reminds me of how some people will go to the theater. Everyone's probably known someone like this too, or maybe has gone to the movies with someone who thinks this way about certain movies. And no shame, sometimes it takes time to unpack a movie. But they go see a movie, they leave, and you ask them, what do you think? And they love it, and then you're like, why? And they're like, I don't really know, I just love the experience. I love the whole bells and whistles of the movie and the theater experience. It kind of screams that to me, where there's like so much surface in those beautiful bells and whistles that it kind of misguides you and frankly ensnares you in its simplicity. Because I don't think I've seen a film quite this thirsty in trying to say something.
Yeah, it's almost like that passive aggressive friend that you have that's like hinting at the things that are bothering him or her, but they're not quite spitting it out. It's like, I'm hinting at you what I'm trying to tell you, but I'm not spitting it out. I'm just disguising it in a vengeance story. And I did see a lot of comments and reviews online talking about this being a redemption story. And that further confused me because I'm not sure what he was trying to get redemption from. Like what his sin or his error was that he needed redeeming. Unless maybe people don't know what the word redemption means.
Perhaps. His redemption's probably just that he's white. He's gotta redeem his actions for being part of the colonialization of these Native Americans. Obviously.
Oh, obviously.
So he has to kill...
He has to kill another white man?
Yeah.
All right.
And he also has to save one of their own, one of the Native American girls, because he took one. He had his Native American wife. I don't know what her name was. And then he had a kid with her. God forbid. And so he had to save one that was captured. Which he did, right?
Okay.
There's some redemption.
There's some redemption, I guess. All right. And I could even maybe see the flashbacks of his wife and maybe his other son. I don't know. Maybe that's just me that I thought he had another son and he just had a surviving one. But whatever. At least his wife, his family. And those dreams just felt like maybe he felt guilty and couldn't do anything to save him. And this is what he had to do. I don't know. They weren't exactly clear. Like I said, the first time around, this was just the dreams were only there for him to keep fighting and for him to keep breathing.
I know it's kind of funny. They felt spiritually charged, which would align with our kind of stereotypical spiritually charged Native Americans. I could buy that. I think there was a bird that bursted out of someone's chest, right?
Oh, that's right. I was like, why is there a bird eating her remains?
Very explicit, I would say, with the spirituality of releasing your inner spirit animal or whatever.
Yeah.
I did want to just add to the redemption story, to just the point of making fun of white people, that they make it very explicit when we come across that Native American who was eating the bison and like threw the liver or heart or whatever towards Leo.
Yeah, the one that basically saved his life.
Yeah, the shaman Native American, he's the guy.
Yeah.
He did mention other threatening tribes who were also Native American, which I sort of like a lot because it starts to develop this world of super high lethality and survival of the fittest and the lens of tribes at the very least. So it's not new Americans versus Native Americans. It's kind of still everyone versus everyone, because even Leo's trapper community group of folks were very suspicious of the French guy who showed up and stuff. So I like the uncertainty between everyone that they make pretty clear.
Yeah.
So white people, not bad. Everyone bad.
I like that. Yeah, like you mentioned earlier on in the episode, there's some biblical motifs trying to scratch here at something, which again, maybe we can unpack together, but I'm not sure I'm understanding what the overall point is. I know the movie starts out with a quote from the book of Job, and I'm not crazy familiar with the story. I do know that it's about making Job suffer for the sake of suffering, to prove that God makes everyone suffer, not just the people who sin. You know, it don't matter. This is an unperfect world. Everyone's liable for suffering. Okay, all right. Leo here, or I guess Glass here, suffers quite a lot. He's not a bad guy. Is he righteous and honest and all these things? I don't know. Something tells me yes, but again, we don't get much from him besides that he's lost a wife, he has a kid, and he's protecting his kid at all costs. And the fact that he's, I guess, interbreeding is usually a sign of someone that's a better person. I don't know. I don't know how to phrase that without sounding weird. But then there's a lot of stories in the Bible that a lot of films get inspiration from, that you could probably pull a story out of the Bible for anything and everything you watch. It's so influential.
Oh yeah, I mean, the Bible, along with even older Aesop fables, helped define what storytelling is.
Yeah, very well said. But again, you're specifically starting off with a quote from here.
Mm-hmm. It's very explicit.
It's very explicit. So what are you trying to say?
No, I totally get you. And I don't think you have to look too hard to also see a little bit of Jesus in this movie, and also the story of Cain and Abel.
I mean, the title itself, right? The Revenant. Which means a person who has returned, especially specifically from the dead. I've heard of someone that has returned from the dead.
Who?
Jesus.
Yes. And we get something very explicit and kind of funny when Mr. Eyebrows, when they get to the trapper camp.
Mr. Eyebrows!
When Leo shows up, he's like, Jesus Christ. It's so explicit, and he's got the long hair and the beard.
Yes.
In this whole journey up to this point, we get these really cool vanity shots of Leo looking at something, you know. It's so over the top in its cinematography that it feels like there's a mission here. He's destiny. God is in him and it's moving him forward, right? And of course, he is basically resurrected twice. One more explicit than the other, but he somehow recovers from a bear attack.
A brutal bear attack.
And then our Native American shaman dude, basically gives him a second life.
Did this transpire in 3 days? I don't know.
Yeah, I was looking for that. The time was not very clear. I was wondering, has it been 3 weeks, 3 months? Because his beard got really long, and I have no idea about that. We have no clear evidence on that.
Yeah, I know some guys that can grow a beard in 3 days.
I know everybody's different when it comes to that.
Exactly.
And these are some of the things that help build the case for someone to really have no other option but to read into the movie. Why? Why is he being reflected as Jesus? Why are we having this Cain and Abel brother killing thing happening? Why the Job quote in the beginning? Why these spiritual churchy kind of imagery? Why these spiritual churchy visuals and imagery and symbolism? Why the God story from Fitzgerald, coming from his dad? Although I guess you could maybe argue the Fitzgerald story was a little atheistic in that it's sort of like God's in everything, so God's really nothing kind of thing. So truthfully, we have this really amazing outline of this deeply kind of religious inspired revenge tale / potentially Aesop fable thing kind of building, right? But those kinds of stories have a very explicit landing mark. The landing mark can go one of two ways, but the landing mark is explicit nonetheless.
Right. I guess in the book of Job, the overall message is God's response at the end, which, from my interpretation of it, is that this world's not perfect and it's super big and complex, and Job is just a small part of it. He doesn't have the overall picture like God does. So he's not in a position to accuse God of being unjust if he starts making him suffer. And this world's not designed to prevent any kind of suffering. So package all that into one statement to say, trust in God. But I don't get that here if that's where we're landing.
Okay. So it's almost like the absence of God is sort of the point, in that things are going to play out in a certain way because of determinism, of course. But there's almost something in Leo that is so spiritually tied, religiously tied in his subconscious. There's almost like this weird yin and yang thing of God persisting in the individual, but not having a presence in the universe. But at the same time, when those are in dire need of divine intervention, there is some kind of answer, and can even take the form of vengeance to those who behave like Fitzgerald.
Like take it into your own hands?
Yeah, like there's this emphasis on the natural suffering of the world. God's mostly hands off, except in times of significant kind of importance, of proving a point. And so maybe Glass will go down in history as, the most recent book of the Bible.
Ah.
Book of Glass.
All right.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess it does make sense in sorts of ways. But again, like that's digging.
I'm really trying. I want to like this movie. I really do. It's beautiful. It's a little long, I will say, but it's quite the experience. And it's just begging to be
more.
to lift behind the curtain a little bit. I'm just like, what's happening back there? And I can't quite get a grasp on it. I don't know if there's something to grab onto, though. That's my problem. What do you think of the performances? I feel like we had 2 major performances here.
I thought they were great. I mean, Leo, of course, deserved every award and accolade he got for this. Especially everyone's favorite scene, probably. The bear scene. Oh my god, how was that filmed? How was that just done? I don't know. That was insane. That was crazy. And he deserves like best acting just at least for that scene because that was crazy to balls. I mean, it's rare when I see something and I'm questioning, oh, how was that film? I really wondered how the stunts were performed or how whatever, like the behind the scenes. So watching something like that is just it was crazy. It was insane. So of course I think Leo did an amazing job, and he got away from some of those roles he tends to play, like a rich guy or maybe kind of boy next door roles. Maybe not quite boy next door, but the love interest, at least. There was no love interest here. He was just surviving on its own. As far as the other characters, I think they were okay. I don't think I'm a huge fan of Tom Hardy, but I think I've only seen him in Inception, right?
Yeah, in Dunkirk.
That doesn't even count. Isn't he the one flying the plane?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't count. We see just him flying a plane. That's not great dialogue or acting. He just has to maneuver something. Not that I'm saying it's easy. I'm sure he had to work at whatever he had to work at for that, but I don't know how I felt about him here. At least it was decent enough to get me immersed in the story.
Yeah, I felt like he was the only character who had personality.
Oh, okay.
I like Tom Hardy in this. I didn't know Tom Hardy could act until this.
That's funny.
He's in a lot of stuff. I just haven't seen very many things.
Yeah, same. You just like him because he's the bad guy.
Well, and he has, the most spoken dialogue.
That's also true.
He's got a nice monologue. He's an intense character. He's like a bad guy, but not really a bad guy. Like, he's just trying to survive out here just like everyone else.
He didn't have to kill Hawk.
No, he didn't.
He didn't have to volunteer.
He didn't have to volunteer. I get it. But he's not, a villain.
He is a villain. Oh my god. He killed Captain Andrew and scalped him to make it look like it was Native Americans.
That was kind of cool.
That was cool. But that makes him a bad guy.
In those moments, we can't categorize people, though. He was a feral, desperate animal fighting for survival.
He had the time to do that.
He did have the time.
You can't just kill him and run. Okay, all right.
And then Leo tricks him, which is awesome.
That was awesome.
That's almost the big climax of the movie, that trick. Isn't it? It's kind of lame. The story itself is kind of lame, isn't it?
What do you mean?
He just gets him.
He gets the vengeance for his son?
Yeah, but...
Kinda.
Okay, Leo's hurt in the beginning by the bear. They discuss leaving him. 2 people stay behind. Fitzgerald, an eyebrow guy. And he's buried alive, mostly alive. He's like 50% alive, right? 51%.
If you're breathing, you're alive.
Okay. And then he goes on an 1.5-hour journey across the frontier, which is very cool to watch. He finds the trapper camp. That's awesome. By himself. It's very cool. I can't take anything away from it. Very fun experience. He gets there. Fitzgerald's ran away, obviously. Stole money, right? From...
Yeah. Everyone's money. Everyone's pay.
And then the older Weasley brother and Leo go after Fitzgerald. And then Leo gets him.
Well, Leo hurts him. And then he lets the tribe get him. Which I think there's something there too, but I don't know. The redemption thing all over again, I guess. But yes, I mean, there's a lot of movies that the story can be that simple, but take you on a very awesome journey. I like the simplicity of a story. I don't want to have to think too much. I feel like this movie is making me think a little too much, and I'm digging, and I don't know if I'm finding anything.
Yeah, it didn't earn the thinking.
It didn't earn the digging, yes. I definitely agree with you there. But it was a very beautiful movie. I was reading that they used a lot of natural lighting and little to no studio lighting, which that's pretty cool. That sounds expensive. I will say, though, that I liked the kind of dim, maybe grim look to it. It really fed to the whole survival mode that we were on. I'm not sure how that works, if that's something that works on post, like a color correction type of deal. But I really liked that. I liked how the movie looked quite a lot. I also like some of the really like wide shots. They were super beautiful. Maybe a little bit too long. Okay, I appreciate how big that mountain looked or how frozen that river was and how huge it was. Like, okay, but I don't need to watch it for a whole minute.
Yeah, they're gonna show you how alone he is.
Yeah.
Alone.
Yes, he had to. Yes, they had to show us that he was out there in the wilderness and just how big and epic it was. I get that. Was it a little long? Yes. But one of the things that I'm not sure how I felt were some of the shots that kind of interacted with the camera. I'm not sure what you call those. I'm sure there's a term for it. But it's like when the bear was breathing into it and we could see the bear's breath, or when blood was being splashed, it would splash onto the camera. And I think there was another one where like rain was getting on it or maybe snow was getting on it. And I found those to be super distracting. I don't know how you felt about them, but I know in one of our previous episodes where we covered the film 1917, you talked about how that point of view shot was a bit distracting to you. And I didn't find that as distracting as I found this. It felt like it didn't fit this type of movie. And I just wanted your take on how you feel about these.
Yeah, so first of all, there may have been natural lighting primarily in this movie, maybe entirely, but none of the colors were natural. All of that was done in post, yes. You don't get colors like this in the real world. There's no hyper-realism in the real world. Leo doesn't look like that. His skin color doesn't look like that.
Lies. I just hear natural and I'm like, ooh, impressive.
It's kind of funny. Natural and naturalism does not mean
what you see.
Yeah, reality.
Yeah.
Realism also doesn't. Yeah, things interacting with the camera are funny things. Mostly we see like lens flares in movies. That's usually as far as we go.
Yes. Those are also hella distracting, but they're so quick.
Yeah, and they're a little bit more familiar because when you look through glass, when you look at the sun for some reason, you see the blurring effect. There's something kind of grounded and real about that. But they do remind you that it's a movie. Is that a bad thing?
I think it was a bad thing here.
Here, I am not digging it with you.
How am I supposed to feel alone in this wilderness if there's a fucking camera right there?
Yeah, it's immersion breaking, I guess.
Yes.
And we get another instance of this at the very, very end where Leo looks into the camera.
Oh, yeah.
Which is just another bigger than life kind of biblical point, I feel like. That's just
looking in
meaningless. It depends on the movie, but looking into like another dimension type thing, which in this case would feel like something religious oriented. But the presence of something like the bear fogging up the glass, I think Leo even did it, blood splatters. Is there a place for that? Maybe. And is this it? Maybe. Because someone's surviving out and about, someone in a war setting might imply this kind of documentary thing. And like you said, we kind of get that feeling with his perseverance and like misery, torture porn kind of thing going on. There's something reality TV-esque here. Sure, maybe a little bit. And I hate to say it, but it's another kind of artsy-fartsy thing that implies some confidence in messaging, maybe. Because when you make decisions like that, I feel like you've got to be very confident in what you're trying to do here. And I think it needs to be bigger than just a revenge story. Because you're pushing the boundaries. You're literally pushing the boundaries of cinema, doing that kind of thing.
Right.
So I feel like the piece demands more. And I hate to be that kind of person, but they are kind of eye-rolly,
Yeah. I can see that. I mean, very distracting, to say the least.
Like, what do they add up to?
Yes.
What is anything, when you're done with it, like, why? Any of this movie?
No, too far.
Too far, my bad. Back it up.
Yeah, I feel like making that kind of choice has to fit with your tone of the movie. I could see something like this in an animated movie being so fun. Because of it being animated, it's silly that they would interact with a camera like that. I like that. Maybe in a movie like Deadpool. Deadpool's always breaking the fourth wall. He's always interacting with us, the audience, and talking to the camera and whatnot. I could see that happening there and it fitting. And even like found footage films. I could see that kind of stuff happening in found footage films because they're supposed to make us feel like someone has a camera and they're holding it the whole time. And that's part of the tone. That's part of the feeling that you get watching found footage movies. It's so narrow through a camera lens.
Could you have seen it in 1917? Because that's got a very documentary, very linear focus. It does focus on the urgency maybe a little too much. It has that angle going for it. Because of its one-take nature, it's got a very narrow viewpoint. And so I can almost see it working a little bit in a movie like that.
I'd be better with it. I don't know. I'd have to feel where they're inserting this kind of camera interaction. Is it just for the sake of kicking dirt towards the camera? You know? Like, I don't know about that. How many times did they do it? It's totally case by case. I didn't like it here. I could maybe be more okay with it in 1917. But again, I think I'd have to see where they're doing this and kind of what the point of that is. I guess I only see those kinds of shots as fun. And those movies aren't fun.
Yeah. Would this movie have been better if it was shot in a studio and not on location in the fucking water and the woods?
I don't know. Do many movies that are placed in a wilderness type setting, a forest, water, whatnot, do they usually film in studio? I don't know if it would have benefited from being in studio or not. I personally like having these shots, and I'm sure it really helped the actors get into their role. I know Leo complained about, well, maybe not complained, but I know he talked about being so fucking cold with the fur coat, and he's like, man, a wet bear fur coat weighs like 120 pounds, and he's like, and I was just exhausted after those takes, and it probably really helped him look exhausted on screen, you know? So, yeah. I think it wouldn't have benefited.
I'm with you. I definitely think the visionary has the right to ask absurd things of their actors, right? Like this. I just hate that it was taken to such an extreme.
For nothing. I will say, though, the bear scene and the scene where he crawls inside a horse are probably some of the most iconic scenes in film since 2015, I guess. Everyone remembers that movie that Leo crawled inside a horse. Crawled inside an animal, at least.
It's kind of sad that that's the case. That is definitely true.
And it won so many awards, too. At the Academy Awards, it received 12 nominations. And I think out of those 12, it looks like it won 3 for Best Director, Best Actor, and Best Cinematographer. It's very decorated.
Direction, though? I feel like the direction's part of the problem.
Dang. I don't know. People love it. Because at the end of the day, this is an amazing movie to watch for its vengeance story alone. For its survival story alone. Without digging into it. Could you cut off maybe 30 minutes with all the other spiritual visuals? Yes.
I wish the spiritual dreamlike things were just a little bit more of a subconscious dump and totally impossible to interpret in some A to B to C fashion. Like you could get this and this out of this one, maybe you can get something completely different out of this other dreamlike thing, where they just felt like subconscious dumps.
Yeah, and I feel like there might have been a few here or there. Actually, I can just think of one that just stuck out to me where I think he was dreaming and he was like in a cave and there were cave drawings and I don't know what the fuck. So if there would have been more of those sprinkled throughout and made me feel more like what the fuck is he dreaming than trying to interpret something, then yeah, I'm totally with you. Maybe that would have been better here so I didn't feel like I had to interpret something.
I don't know what that would have implied about his character, but it would have helped keep us on track of what's really important here, and that's killing Fitzgerald.
I did want to add one little tidbit that I found on Wiki, which I thought was hilarious, and you might also appreciate the humor in this. But apparently, a lot of crew members complained about the filming, with many of them quitting or being fired. And when they asked Iñárritu about this, like, what's going on, man, he said, as a director, if I identify a violin that is out of tune, I have to take it out from the orchestra.
Lol.
I thought that was so funny.
And you'll get a taste of this based off of the budget, but he didn't even need to start day one to know that this was going to be a very expensive movie. And that expense includes, paying your crew members 1.5 times more than what they would probably expect. So yeah, maybe they were being babies.
All I'm saying is, if Leo could endure all this, but you know what? Leo's probably making hell of a lot more than they're making, so maybe I take that back.
Yeah, the guys we need to shout out are the stunt doubles. How many stunt doubles did Leo have, and what did they endure?
Jesus Christ, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a great point. I'm sure he had multiple stunt doubles.
Of course.
While one was dying of hypothermia, you could throw in the next one.
Yeah, exactly. All right, man. Well, thank you for watching this movie with me and talking about it here today.
You're welcome.
Do you have a budget guess for me?
Okay, so my budget guess is 100 million. I was going to give it 150, but that just felt like way too much. But I don't know, with all this shooting and natural lighting, that means they were very limited on when they could shoot. And that probably means that it was a very long project, more money. With people quitting and getting fired, I don't know, that probably adds on or takes off, who fucking knows. The movie is pretty long, so I'm not confident about my 100. I might want to give it more, but I don't know how much more. I could even say 150, but I'll stick to my 100. Because there's also not a lot of CG or a lot of moving parts. It's all nature. You don't have to build sets.
Yeah, how much more expensive is dealing with extreme working conditions versus building shit? I don't know.
That's true.
Well, it says here that it was 135 million.
Dang.
That's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money.
That makes sense. Well, over on Letterboxd with 1.33 million, they weighed in at a 3.9.
Okay. It's a little high, but okay.
Yeah, it just screams that, well, I love the movie, but I don't know why.
That's me.
And like I said, there's really no shame in just liking the experience and not reading into it. But some movies, like The Revenant, feel like they're trying to be something more. I don't know. Maybe it's just me watching too many stupid A24 movies.
Exactly. You need to come back to Earth. Yeah, I'm leaning towards a 3.5. I can't get over the violence here.
Of course.
Addicted to that.
And it's
stuff,
beautiful.
And it's very beautiful.
And Leo's great. Tom
Leo's
Hardy's
great.
even great. Eyebrow guy's cool.
Okay.
Big Brother Weasley. He's fun.
Yes.
His best movie's About Time. Shout out.
Especially when that fucking horse falls off the cliff. Oh my god, my heart just... I didn't even know how to feel during this movie.
Yeah, the Native Americans chasing people and stuff. It's very cool.
Yeah, so I'm probably leaning towards a 3.5.
I'm pretty locked in on a 3.
Okay.
I want a 3.5 out of this, but it's just not enough of anything. It's a fun... Well, I wouldn't say fun, but it's a cool movie. It's entertaining. Yes. I can't watch it every, week. It's way too long, but it's a hard recommend.
Yes, I would recommend this to somebody for sure.
But I couldn't tell you why. I really can't. You're going to be a little frustrated probably, and I'm sorry about it. If you approach it with
non-Shinigami eyes?
Yeah. And just, are real into the misery porn. I don't know. There's this expectation that we're going to immediately feel for Leo's character because he was in an interracial couple, has a kid with him, it gets killed. Like, we don't get anything out of Leo. So it's kind of funny that he even won an award for this.
Yeah, he should have won an award for
Gilbert Grape.
Exactly,
Hell yes.
exactly.
That's his
that
best
should
role.
have been his first award.
Totally agree. But yeah, man, thank you again, and thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Filmistines. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Remember, we post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on patreon.com/Filmistines, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, YouTube. Remember to leave nice comments, thoughts, and ideas on our Patreon as well. Come subscribe for $1, $5. Come right in. Come request a movie. Be nice.
Tell us why you like The Revenant.
Tell us why you like The Revenant. But until next time, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Filmistines. Thanks for tuning in and joining us on our cinematic journey. We hope you enjoyed the discussion and gained some new insights and perspectives in the world of movies. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform, especially Patreon, at patreon.com/Filmistines, and follow us on social media for more film-related content. We love hearing from our listeners, so if you have any feedback, suggestions, movie recommendations, or book recommendations, please feel free to reach out to us. Until next time, keep watching, keep loving the magic of movies. This is the Filmistines, signing off.